Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Rohr Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
Welcome to Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. I am Laura Sturm, and this is episode 97.
97, and I'm Josh Rohr, your other schmuck co-hosting this thing.
I think you're calling me a schmuck.
Yeah, I realized as I said it. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it that way, but as soon as I said it, I'm like, "Ooh, shoot, that didn't come out right."
I'm a schmuck.
Cool. Glad we agree. So I had a question that came up recently. That was basically, what's the difference between PA and USA Powerlifting, PA being Powerlifting America. And I realized that we've talked about it before, but I don't remember which episode we talked about it. So the label of this one is going to be the difference between PA and USA Powerlifting. So we're going to detail that a little bit. In short, USA Powerlifting was the US affiliate to the IPF for a long, long time. Recently, the IPF kicked USA Powerlifting out of the IPF because, I guess we'll get into it a little bit, basically because we refused to stop doing non-fully WADA compliant testing, which off the top of your head seems like, okay, well then why didn't USA Powerlifting just stop? Well, the reason is USA Powerlifting was founded on drug testing at every level, and the IPF is on their high horse right now about only doing fully WADA compliant testing, which means third-party testing, an independent agency does the testing, etc. Well, basically the budget to do that, to continue the testing at the level that USA Powerlifting is testing, is basically 3 or 4 times our entire annual budget. So that's completely out of the question. So I'll give the short abbreviated version here and then get into some nitty gritty stuff. But basically, as long as USA Powerlifting only does third-party WADA testing, then we are WADA compliant. And we do that at the national level already. So if we only test at the national level and only do WADA testing, we're good. But as soon as we want to start doing additional testing at the local level, in addition to the WADA testing only at the national level, that makes us non-compliant. So essentially, we got booted for drug testing too much, or for lack, essentially that's what it was. Now, the interesting part is, so I guess the difference right now is, there are another Powerlifting America has taken over as the US affiliate to the IPF, which there's a whole lot of shady shit that happened with that. I'm not going to get into all those details, but essentially a couple former members of USA Powerlifting started Powerlifting America in May of last year, and then came to the NGB last year in June, saying that they support USA Powerlifting, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Anyway, shady shit. So anyway, going back to, the main differences. So essentially now, if you are competing in Powerlifting America and the IPF, you're only subject to WADA testing, which again is the gold standard of testing. I'm not going to disagree with that. The problem I have is the limited number of WADA testing that's being done, because financially it's just not feasible to test at the high level and high quantity of testing. So, that's the part that I have a big point of contention with. Like, yes, in an ideal world, we would drug test 10% of lifters at every competition, fully, third-party WADA tested. Great. I agree in concept, that makes sense, right? But financially, it's just not possible. So the IPF, their solution and what they really were pushing for is to just stop testing at the local level and just do the third-party testing at the national level. And that's my point. I just have a big issue with that, because what difference does it make if we're doing additional testing? Like, we're still meeting your minimum requirements and then doing additional on our own. And that's the part I just have a big problem with. Fast forward to recent events. There are lifters that have, so basically after the split with USA Powerlifting and IPF, it's been a long standing IPF rule that, you cannot be under the IPF umbrella and compete against a suspended lifter. Well, recently, Powerlifting America has been sending lifters emails saying that if they wish to compete in the IPF if they wish to compete on a national team for Powerlifting America, they have to actually resign their membership from USA Powerlifting. And they specifically, I'm going to just read a quote from it, just so I don't mess up any of the words. So this is a direct quote from an email sent to a lifter that is going to compete at the NAPF competition as a representative of Powerlifting America. So here's the beginning of the quote. If you have not done so already and you are a current or past member of USAPL, to prevent unauthorized drug testing, the IPF is requiring all USA national team members to officially resign from USAPL. Please find the attached example letter, edit out the name and membership number with your relevant information. Let's get ready for Panama. Signed, Jim Brown. So I love Jim and Janelle. They've been friends for a long time, but here's the shady shit of this. Both Jim and Janelle failed a drug test with us back in 2017. So basically, again, this is me thinking outside the box here. This tells me that they don't want people in USA Powerlifting for fear of failing a drug test, because we test at every level. We still do our WADA testing at the national level. Like, if you're taking something, your chances of getting caught in USA Powerlifting is higher than anywhere else, point blank. So I just think it's shady as shit. It rubs me all the wrong ways. It really pisses me off. And I just think it's a bunch of BS that, because here's the other thing. They're not saying you got to resign from any other organization. USPA does drug tested meets. WNPF does drug tested meets. NASA does drug tested meets. There's no mention of any of those organizations, and they're not WADA compliant in terms of doing third-party WADA testing. So why is that not? They're not telling you to resign from your job so you don't get drug tested from your job.
Because that's a real thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it's really shady that, that this is happening. And here's another fun fact. I'm going to read a press release that USA Powerlifting put out. I'm going to paraphrase some of it, and then I'm going to read some direct quotes from it. But basically, one of the quotes is, the words unauthorized drug test does not appear in the WADA code or the international standards for results management. So there's no language in the code that suggests that athletes cannot be drug tested by non-signatories of the code. In fact, just the opposite. Section 15.3 and the associated comment 96 specifically address drug testing by non-signatories. To summarize, this section means that signatories to the code, which is the IPF, should apply decisions made regarding drug testing results of a non-signatory, which, in this case would be USA Powerlifting. So some of the excerpts from the WADA code: an anti-doping decision by a body that is not a signatory of the code shall be implemented by a signatory if the signatory finds that the decision purports to be within the authority of that body and the anti-doping rules of that body are otherwise consistent with the code, which again, it is. Then the comment 96 comment to the article, where the decision of a body that has not accepted the code is in some respects code compliant and in other respects not code compliant, signatories should attempt to apply the decision in harmony with the principles of the code. For example, if in a process consistent with the code, a non-signatory has found an athlete to have committed an anti-doping rule violation on account of the presence of a prohibited substance in the athlete's body, but the period of ineligibility applied is shorter than the period provided for in the code, then all signatories should recognize the finding of an anti-doping rule violation, and the athlete's national anti-doping organization should conduct a hearing consistent with Article 8 to determine whether the longer period of ineligibility provided in the code should be imposed. A signatory's implementation of a decision or its decision not to implement a decision under Article 15.3 is appealable under Article 13. Long story short here is basically they're saying if a non-signatory finds a doping violation and let's say gives a 2-year suspension, the WADA code says it's a 4-year suspension. So they should, assuming everything checks all the boxes in terms of it being an official drug test and whatnot, it should be the signatory should honor that for the time given in the WADA code, which would be 4 years. Well, our suspensions match the WADA code. But here's the other fun part of it. There for a while, when we were still doing our drug testing, we were still part of the IPF. The IPF was telling us that we had to reinstate everybody that failed a drug test that was not done with third-party WADA testing. Why?
Right?
Why? Because we were managing it and not paying the IPF to manage it. With all of the third-party WADA testing, we can either pay USADA, CCES, or we can pay the IPF to manage the drug testing fee, results management. And they didn't have their hand in the pot when we were doing our own. Also shady, right?
Right.
But literally they told us to reinstate people that had failed drug tests for any substances that are banned. And that includes the people that we have already mentioned.
Wow.
So essentially everybody that
Coincidence?
failed a drug test was going to all of a sudden be reinstated. And now the funny part is, they have not, they're part of Powerlifting America now, and nothing, they're just whatever.
Right. So you would think if the IPF is doing all this so that they keep clean platform, that this wouldn't be part.
And being fair here, these suspensions were in June of 2017. So that 4-year suspension period is up, but it's like those were never honored to begin with.
Yeah. There's some shade.
Yeah. So it's just, I have an issue with a lot of stuff, and people ask me what the difference is. And I try to be as objective as I can, but that's actually, in full transparency, that's hard for me to do because, I spent a good amount of time on the executive board, and I've heard it directly from the mouth of the IPF president. I'll go ahead and go there. Some of the ways that they were going to handle stuff, and I gotta tell you, it's not great.
Yeah, I'm kind of no worse. When you pulled this up on the screen, I looked at it, I'm like, wait, are you for real? Like, why would they call on someone to resign from USAPL? Like that, like why?
Because if they can force people's hand, because here's the thing. The conversations I've had with individuals, really, they believe that the IPF affiliate, it was basically the legs that USA Powerlifting stood on, as being the IPF affiliate. So when that was taken away, they fully believed that USA Powerlifting would collapse. That has not happened. In fact, we hit record membership last month, even prior to COVID. And when you think of WADA, like the first thing you think of is like the Olympics, the IOC, and the gold standard of drug testing. And to a degree, I think that's the case. But what's the crazy part, and we've talked about this before, is being WADA compliant doesn't actually mean you have to do any drug testing. It just means that any drug testing you do has to be done third party using WADA certified accredited testing agencies. Right. Well, that's the little asterisk that people don't understand. So, if a 100,000 member organization drug test one person per year, and it's third party WADA tested, they are fully WADA compliant and advertise their being the gold standard of drug testing,
Right.
when they haven't done shit for actual drug testing. So I think there's enough people that are reading between the lines and realizing, like, essentially the IPF is not, I mean, I don't think you can really say that any drug-free organization is truly drug-free, because there's going to be people that try to cheat. But that's the thing, is we have a lot of failures in USA powerlifting because we catch people. So if you just think about it logically, like, if you want to be viewed as the gold standard of drug testing and viewed as a clean sport, if you drug test a lot less, you're going to have a lot less failures.
That must mean you're drug free then.
Right. Right. So that's the thing. Like we do have a significant number of failures in USA powerlifting because we catch cheaters. Like, that's the whole idea of drug testing, is to catch people cheating. If we wanted to have less drug failures, we could test less people and say we have, fewer positive drug tests than anybody. So we're the cleanest in powerlifting. Well, yeah, that's easy to do when you don't test people. Right.
Right.
So
in theory too, like in Powerlifting America, I could go, lift at a local meet, juiced up to the hilt. I'm not going to get popped because I'm not going to get tested. It's not an IPF meet.
Yeah. Well, so word on the street is that they are testing at every level, as what they say. I have seen the budget for that, and I know that's so. Okay. So here again, let's speculate here. So if they do one drug test at every local meet, technically they're testing at every meet, but the percentage of lifters that they're actually testing is so low. So what are the odds that they select the one person out of a 200 lifter meet that's actually taking something? And I don't know the numbers that they're testing. I'll be honest, I don't, but I know the budget, and I know how many members that we had and we couldn't afford it. And I know how many members they have, and there's no way they can afford that. So something's got to give. So I don't know I don't know what's being done. I don't know. I've not been to a Powerlifting America meet. I will say that, full disclosure. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they are testing at the local level. I don't know how many, if they are testing at the local level. I find it hard to believe that they're doing any substantial quantity of testing at every level if they are attempting to stay fully WADA compliant. So,
right. Because they wouldn't be able to afford it.
Yeah. Literally there's no way. And that was another thing that was frustrating, like dealing with the IPF too, is like they kept insisting that we just ask more money from our Ministry of Sport. Like, you don't understand, like, we don't get government funding to do this. So, it just, there's just a big gap.
That's cute. Like,
yeah,
that's cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Go ask your government for the money.
Yeah, not going to happen. So hopefully that explains the difference a little bit between them. But, currently here's the thing too. Like, I don't have any issues if anybody wants to go compete in Powerlifting America or the IPF. Like that is still world championship wise, like the top level competition. But my bigger issue is, like, so lifters, if they want to go, they know what they're going into. They know that there's probably lifters that are not clean that they might compete against that are likely not going to be tested, especially from other countries. So I get that. If you go in knowing that, my problem is the organizations that allow that, because that is basically opening the door, looking the other way, however you want to say it, for people to come in and cheat and not get caught. And that's where I have an issue with, like, if you just want to say, we don't care about drug testing anymore. Okay. Be transparent about that. Then it's not like you're hiding under this false whatever of being, truly drug free and wanting a clean platform, when you don't give a shit about that, if you're being honest with yourself. So you want the title of WADA compliant, and you want, to check all the boxes on the papers to make yourself look clean, versus actually testing thoroughly and catching cheaters. Like that's the difference. I think they're shady. I think I'm getting a little
On a rant.
into my feels a little bit here, but I think they're shady as shit and I have zero respect for them. But that said, I will still coach my lifters if they want to go to those meets, but I will not be attending those meets. I can't do it out of good conscience. I just think they are shady.
Yeah. And I don't know that it had to go that way, right? Like they could have been like, hey, well, we're going to be Powerlifting America. We'll work with USA lifters if they want to go international, because that is this many people. Then, it will be the international federation, since we can't be the same one. Like they could have still worked hand in hand. And I don't know why. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened with that's just kind of like a rift and a split, and it really doesn't help the sport whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some other, I wasn't going to get into some of this other stuff, but so some of the other things that were not as drastic of points of contention with USA Powerlifting and IPF is basically the IPF came out with a new constitution that said that their bylaws supersede any national federation bylaws. That started like this past year. Essentially, that means that national organizations have to mirror the IPF completely. So weight classes, which we were doing that. Divisions, which we had teen, junior, collegiate, high school versus sub junior and junior. So that was another thing, that divisions would no longer be allowed. So we'd have to get rid of high school and collegiate nationals essentially. But the crazy part is I see Powerlifting America advertising an upcoming high school and collegiate nationals date to be determined, which based on the IPF bylaws, they cannot do.
Right.
But
shouldn't be allowed.
But suddenly they're allowed to do it, but we weren't. So I really wonder, I have a lot of questions. Things just don't add up. And I know too much to just look at it as, oh, it's just it was just a misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding. Like there was very, very much an agenda, very much whatever. And I have good friends that, have gone the route of Powerlifting America. If that's where they want to go, that's fine. Like I'm not gonna, I guess I'm disappointed. I will say that I am disappointed, but I understand it. Like I understand the desire to go compete at the IPF level. But the IPF is not what it claims to be. And that's the frustrating part. But hopefully that in a nutshell, that answers the question for the person that asked that. And it's kind of something I wanted to touch on again at some point, but feel like we'll be back to this again at some point.
Yeah.
It just seems to keep coming up with this.
Did this Jim Brown letter just come out?
I don't know.
Is that recent?
It's fairly recent. And I can't say who it was sent to, or who's, who sent it to me or any of that, but that was a snippet of the actual letter that was sent. And the other thing is, like, it's been going around that the IPF is not requiring members to resign from USA Powerlifting, which clearly, based on this letter, is not the case. So I think they're telling you one thing and doing another.
Well, and it kind of sounds like they're just not interpreting the WADA code correctly. Like, I don't know, can't somebody just go to WADA and be like, hey, theoretically, if this were to happen, would that be okay? Like, is there no, like,
so this is the part I don't know. Like, I don't know if international governing bodies and signatories of the code can actually go above and beyond the code. I don't know if they're allowed to do that or not. So if they are, then I guess they can essentially make these rules and do what they want. But to be using WADA as the reason is kind of, it doesn't add up, because that's not what the code says.
Wrong.
Anyway,
yeah. Okay. Deep dive. So we're going to talk about music, the power ballads portion of this podcast, which we've been lacking lately. So we were going to look at top 5 TV intro songs. And I got to say, I'm like at a complete loss for these.
I can help you. I have more than enough.
Got your list.
Yeah. I don't
okay.
have it finalized, but I have a list of a good probably 20 at this point.
Really?
So, oh yeah.
Do I just not watch
I would
enough
say,
TV?
well, most of them are like 70s, 80s, 90s shows. And most of them you're going to be like, I never heard of this show. But if you listen to the intro, then they're also great shows. Like that's the thing. So so there is no requirement for the show to actually be good. We're just talking about the intro music. However, I am only using my list of shows that are great shows as well. Fair.
Well, I gotta say, like in the last, are you a Stranger Things person? Yes. So the whole Kate Bush song.
Wait. So I haven't seen the most recent season. So if there's any
okay,
spoilers,
well, I'm not going to do any season spoiler or anything.
Okay.
But music plays a heavy hand, and especially a 80s song that has now come back from the dead. Because Kate Bush was not.
Is that in the most recent season?
Yes, big.
That's a
big
spoiler.
Music.
That's a spoiler.
It's not. It's not. It's in the coming attractions. Okay. It's just a trailer. Watch the trailer. You'd be like, oh, okay.
Okay.
It's a Kate Bush song. So there's some really good 80s songs that come back in Stranger Things, but there's a really big tie to music, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I love that.
Because that would be a spoiler. So get with it and watch the season. Because right. The last two episodes come out July 1st, and I'm so excited.
Oh boy.
But I love the tie into the music.
Got it. So anyway, where we're going with this, we're going to do our next countdown of our top 5 TV intro songs. So there's going to be a link in our bio at PA Ballads Podcast on Instagram. Click the link, click submit your top 5 list, and fill that out. What's our deadline going to be? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. How about like 2 weeks?
Let's just make it an even Saturday. We'll do it July 16th, which is Saturday.
Deal.
List have to be in July 16th.
It'll give me time to do research.
Yeah. It'll also give you time to forget to fill it out.
Probably.
Because that happened with a few people. And they're like, oh, I forgot all about it. Well, don't forget. Can't win if you don't enter. Can't fail a drug test if you don't take one.
So true. So true. Let's move on. All right.
Powerlifting situation.
Powerlifting situation. You have the lower body weight, but are down 5 kilos after opening deadlifts, despite having the heaviest opener. Second place is basically locked up, but you tweak your back slightly during the opener. Do you pass your second attempt and pull third for the win? What would decide if this is a smart strategy or not?
So in general, I'm always in favor of especially if you're injured like this, pass your second and pull for the win at the end. Now the part that gets tricky here. So within this situation, we said that we have the highest deadlift, which is always a advantage. But if there's a scenario, like if we have a really close subtotal, if on the third attempt, they take more weight than they need, and it forces you to, because if you want to wait and see what happens, you have to still be after them, right? Mm-hmm. But if you pass your second and they take a big jump and you're after them and they miss, well, now if our subtotals are close, I can only drop like 5 kilos to pull for the win, which is going to be way more than I need based on what they did on their second. So we have to be careful with that. If we're really close on our deadlift openers, even though we're after them, if we turn in a number that's bigger than their third attempt, because if they make it, we got to pull it. But if they miss, and I've been in this situation before with the lower deadlifter, where we've put on a number where I knew my lifter wouldn't make it, but I knew my competitors were going to want to pull after. So we missed it badly, didn't even break it off the floor, and they missed it and we won because, they couldn't drop below what we already had on the bar.
Fake out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fine line of putting on enough, for the other lifter, putting on enough that it's believable, even if he can't make it, because as the person deadlifting last and knowing I only have one deadlift last, I could, put on what I need to beat your second, but then you pull after me and can drop down and, you would have to, pull more than you needed to beat me back again. But it's kind of that chess match. Your competitor is going to go one of two ways. They're going to do 3 attempts and try to get you to pull 3, or they're going to make their second and make a big jump and try to force you out of, being able to pull the least amount possible to win. And, then that's where the decision comes is, do you drop it and pull what you need to get into first to beat their second and let them pull after you, which again would force them to pull more than they need. So it's kind of a chess match. If you're hurt, that's what I would do. I would just go ahead and let them pull after you, drop to what you need to win. And if they drop below you, then on your third, then you can still, pull after them to win. It's a big chess match, and it's really fun to watch it play out a lot of times.
The chess match of the last deadlifts. So much
yes.
fun. It's
Okay.
All right.
I'm done.
New lifter tip. Are you ready now?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I like this heading. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Pay attention and talk with other coaches, lifters, and volunteers that have been around powerlifting. Be a sponge for information. Take advantage of the experience of others so that you don't have to learn the hard way like many of us had to. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Of course. And really, it goes with everything. Like, learn, take the time, learn.
Yep. And we've mentioned similar things before. I think people just sometimes they want to portray themselves as being better or knowing more than they do. So they don't want to show what they don't know. But the only way to really get better and learn is to ask the questions, have the conversations, stop, collaborate, and listen.
Well, I mean, mistakes do make you learn.
They do. But that's learning the hard way, though.
Kind of.
There's an easier way sometimes, and it involves asking questions, talking to people, and valuing experience that has come before you.
Right. Well, and it is a pretty friendly sport. Like, people aren't generally like not going to talk to you and not going to share their experience. So people like to talk about lifting.
Yeah, like there's even a couple podcasts about powerlifting.
No way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's wrap this up.
Yes, please. Don't forget to submit your top 5 list. You have until July 16th. You can go to our link in our bio at PL Ballads Podcast. And everybody do have a safe 4th of July weekend this coming weekend.
Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
All right. See you next time. Bye now.
Right. Later.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.